Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good day, my dear students. This is Dr. Wafa, and in this lecture, I am going to discuss Chapter 3, Modal Auxiliary Verbs. So we're still with the auxiliary verbs. The first type has been discussed in the previous video, the primary auxiliary verbs. And in this lecture, we're going to deal with the two types of auxiliary verbs, the modal auxiliary verbs and the marginal modal auxiliary verbs. So the modal auxiliary verbs are listed here. We have the negative, non-negative, or the base form of the verb, can, could, and so on. So we have the base and we have the ed1 form for each one of the verbs. So can is the base form, and the verb could is the ed1 form of the modal auxiliary. And here we have the non-contracted negative, cannot or could not. And here we have the contracted negative form of the verb. Cannot would be can't, could not would be couldn't, and so on. And in the end, we have, the last three ones, we have what is called the marginal modal auxiliary verbs. We have the verb used to, and we have the verb need and dare. Previously, we talked about the features of modal auxiliary verbs. It is worth mentioning that they do not take certain forms that are, applicable to different lexical verbs. So we don't have the S form with the modal auxiliary verbs. We don't have the ing form, and we don't have the ed2 form for each of the modal auxiliary verbs. Marginal modal auxiliary verbs. The question is that why are they called marginal modal auxiliary verbs? And how are they different from the modal auxiliary verbs? And they go with probably with the idea that they are less commonly used, marginalized. That's why they are called marginal. While the rest of the modal auxiliary verbs, which are more commonly used, they are regarded to be, commonly used. That's why they are modal, to show certain degrees of modality. While the marginal modal auxiliary verbs, they are less commonly used. So the first one is the verb used to, and the features are, in terms of the form, they are followed by to infinitive, and they are used only in past tense. In this context, I'm telling you that they are used only in the past tense because there are other verbs, other forms that are used in present tense. We're not talking about those types. So in this context, in this resource specifically, we're using the verb that is used only in the past tense. It is followed by to infinitive. It might take the do construction or not. Like in case of negation, you may say didn't used to, or it is also possible to say didn't used to. So you can keep the ed or you can remove it. In both cases, it is correct. And in the case of interrogative, you may use the do construction as the usual case, or you may not. It's just the displacement between the subject and the verb. So if you want to make a question, you would say, used he to paint? If the sentence would be, he used to paint, the question would be just to displace the subject and the auxiliary verb, used he to paint. Or you may use the do construction, which would be, did he used to paint? Or did he used to paint? So all cases are acceptable. Let's take some examples. Examples in cases of assertion and an assertion. And I would like to remind you that assertion are those sentences that are in the affirmative form, while the non-assertion forms are those that are associated with the negative form, with the question and the negative question forms of the sentence. Now, in case of assertion, the sentence would be, I used to go to the beach every summer. He used to be a teacher, but now he is a writer. So when we use this verb used to, and what does it refer to? We'll actually use it in cases where there has been a particular habit lasted for a particular duration of time, but nowadays, or now, right now, it's no longer the case. So I used to do something in the past. It used to be my habit, whether positive or negative, and now I'm no longer doing it. So this habit is no longer being practiced. So when we say he used to be a teacher, but now he's a writer, it means that as a habit or as a career, as something that lasted for a particular duration of time, he was a teacher or he used to be a teacher, but now he's no longer a teacher, he's a writer. So this is the assertion form of the verb. And in cases of non-assertion, non-assertive sentences, we have either the negative operator, negative do, like in the sentence, she didn't used to exercise, but now she goes to the gym regularly. Or we may negate the verb itself. So the sentence would be, she used not to exercise, but now she goes to the gym regularly. So we can use either cases with do construction or without. So we can say that the marginal modal auxiliary itself can accept the operations of negation and question. The other example, they didn't used to travel much, but now they visit new countries every year. Again, the case of negation, you either add the do construction, the do, verb to do, as an operator, or the marginal verb itself can be the operator itself. So it's possible to say they used not to travel much and the rest of the sentence. In case of the non-assertion interrogative, in cases of questions, it is either possible to use again the do construction or to depend on the subject-verb inversion using only the marginal modal auxiliary without do construction. So it is either to say, did you used to play the piano when you were younger? Or you may say, used you to play the piano when you were younger? Same goes with the second example. Did he used to be so quiet, or has he always been talkative? And the other way would be, used he to be so quiet, and the rest of the sentence. Okay. This is a note that is mentioned in the book. It says that we can use in Quirk, in your course book, we can use used to and used to. Both can be employed interchangeably. It means that both are accepted, both are functional in terms of non-assertion forms. It questions and negation. So it's possible to use the do construction, or you may, in terms when you add the do construction, you may delete this ed from the verb, or you may not, and both are accepted. While in the other resources, if you come across other resources, they would prefer that using used to in non-assertion contexts is not acceptable. So they don't employ the verb used to in negative sentences or interrogative sentences. While with Quirk, your textbook, it is possible to use them interchangeably. The other marginal auxiliary verbs are there and need. If you're dealing with them as marginal modal auxiliary verbs, there is no to infinitive. These two infinitive forms are not available with modal auxiliary verbs, so they are bare infinitive. Bare means without, so there is no to infinitive. And they are parenthesized, as you can see. The particle to is parenthesized just to show that when they appear, they are lexical, and when they do not, they are more probably to be modal, but not always. And also with modal auxiliary verbs, as we mentioned earlier, they do not accept the S inflection as third person singular. While lexical verbs, the lexical version of there and need, they accept the inflection S. These examples are taken from the book. Modal verbs are restricted to non-assertive contexts. This is important. Non-assertive, which means the negative and interrogative. And they are very rare in American rather than English, British. In British, they are more likely to be used, but in American English, they are rarer, let's say, less commonly used. So we have the different types of sentences. We have the positive form of the sentence, or the, let's say, the assertive form of the sentence. And as you can see here, we have blank. We don't have any example in the section that is, dedicated to auxiliary verbs, modal auxiliary verbs. So this column is for the modal auxiliary verbs. No positive form is is available, as it mentioned in the note that modal auxiliary verbs, let's say marginal modal auxiliary verbs, are always negative or interrogative. So they appear only in the non-assertion contexts. The last, let's say, column shows sentences, shows verbs in the lexical verbs in sentences. So with the case of positive sentences, or let's say the assertive sentences, no example for modal auxiliary verbs, but there is an example for the lexical verbs. He needs to go now. As you pay attention, please, as you can see, the verb need it carries as third person singular, shows the concord with the subject because the subject is third person singular, and it is followed by to infinitive. And I go with the idea that this particle to, is to separate the two verbs, because we have two verbs here. So to separate them, we need this to infinitive. But if the lexical verb need or there is not followed by another verb, no need for this to infinitive. I go with this idea. The second case would be the non-assertion. The second, third, and fourth case are all non-assertion. So as you can see, we have examples for the modal auxiliary verbs. So with the negative, we have the sentence, he needn't go now. If you pay attention, he and then need, there is no as third person singular, and the verb is not followed by to infinitive, although it is followed by another verb. While in case of lexical verb, he doesn't need to go now. He doesn't need to go now. For the case of negation, we added verb to do, to accept the operations. See? And then the verb is followed by to infinitive as a lexical verb. In case of interrogative, we just replace the subject and the verb. So there is this inversion between the subject and the verb. It accepts the operations. This is the idea that the modal auxiliary verbs, they are the modal auxiliary verbs, they are the operators of the sentence. So they don't need do construction, verbs to do, in order to accept or in order to carry the operations of the sentence, whether question or negation. They carry the operations themselves. So the sentence would be, need he go now? You see there is this inversion between the subject and the verb. While with the case of lexical, we added the do construction. Does he need to go now? So here we have operator added. But here we don't have any operator because the modal auxiliary itself accepts the operations. Negative, interrogative, needn't he go now? Again, it accepts two operations. The first operation is for the negation. The second operation would be the interrogative or question, with no addition of any other helping verbs. While with the case of lexical, if you want to change the sentence into an interrogative one, we need an operator. So we added the suitable verb, the suitable auxiliary, which is verb to do. Doesn't he need to go now? Again, the verb is followed by to infinitive. Some other examples to distinguish modal auxiliary need from lexical need. And same, by the way, same goes with the verb dare. Okay, so the first example, the first column would be dedicated to lexical verbs, and the second one is for the auxiliary verbs. So the verb would be, the sentence is positive, or let's say the assertive form. I need to finish my homework. She needs to rest after the long trip. While with the auxiliary verbs, there is no such a such an option. We cannot have auxiliary verbs need or dare in positive contexts. Here comes the role of negation, where we have both lexical and auxiliary verbs appearing in different contexts. So with negative, she doesn't need any assistance. Look, we have the addition of the operator do in order to carry the operation of negation. And we have the verb need, which is not followed by to because as you can see, there is no other verb following the verb need. So we don't need this to particle to separate the two verbs. Dealing with the auxiliary verbs, you need not worry about the topic. Again, not is added to the verb, the auxiliary verb itself. It doesn't require any auxiliary verb because it is the auxiliary verb and it is the operator of the sentence. The other example, lexical, they do not need to wait outside. Again, an operator, and then we have the verb lexical need followed by to because it is also followed by another verb, while with the auxiliary she need not attend the lecture. Need followed by not, and there is no as third person singular, there is no showing of concord. With the case of the interrogative, the question, with the lexical verbs we need to add an operator. Does John need to leave late? While with the auxiliary verbs we just replace the subject and the verb because the verb need itself is the operator. Need I repeat it again? The last question, the last example would be, did you need that old resource? Again, the addition of do construction, an operator. While here, need we apologize for the situation? We made only a replacement between the subject and the verb. So there is no need for the addition of any operator because the auxiliary verb itself is the operator. Thank you so much for listening to this lecture. My sincere thanks and appreciation. I hope that you made benefit from this lecture, and if you have any questions or any comments, please leave them in the comment section, and have a good day.